Hello everybody, welcome to another stream. So today we're going to carry on with the API design. Last stream we got the iteration API over properties kind of in, or mostly finished actually. I just off stream I thought about a few more things I want to change about it. Then we're going to do the iteration over all of the entities for a given archetype. And then we're going to hopefully get on some of these other things, which is like creating entities and the API around that and what we need to actually code gen. So yeah, let's just carry on with that. So we designed this like iteration API. I'm inside the code generator file. I'm just run a bunch of test code and trying to implement it in a bare bones way. So this is how you'd actually use the code. You first instantiate the iterator by saying like, so this is like iterate of the entities within a given radius that have a coordinate property and do not have an inventory property. Then you can iterate over all the pools, which are archetype pools, one pool per archetype. And then you get back a range, basically, and then you iterate over all the entities within the range. But I think we could make this API a bit better still. And so I would definitely like to do that. But before we get started on this, I want to change this entref thing. This entref is something you get from an entity ID, and for the whole frame it'll be valid. And it directly references an entity. Right now you pass in a pool offset and an archetype. I would just like it to pass in an archetype. And we should be able to get it down to a single U32 rather than a U64. And then what we should be able to do is make so I'm thinking the way I want to solve it is this entity system. These are the archetype pools. They all start with this pool header. I think we should actually make a union of them. Archetype pool. So it'll be an array of archetype pool, which is a union. So it'll be, the pool header would definitely be in there. And then because it's code generated, it's going to have all of the different pools in here. So it'd be the knights. Well, I'll just write manually again. Chest. These are very poor examples, but anyway. Chests. It might just be singular, I don't know. And then tree. And then instead in the system, we're actually going to have an array of that union. Archetype pools. And then it'll be like ent archetype count, something like that. Right. So with this then, it means that when we want to take an entity reference and get one of the property pointers, we don't need the pool offset anymore. Things are just heavily simplified. So I think here's an example for it. Yeah. So this would be ent pool coordinate array, so instead it'll be ent ref coordinate array. Well, an archetype So instead, you pass in the archetype. Rather than the pool header. I think we won't make that a public thing, maybe. We'll see. So I think we should be able to say whatever that global is, G and entity system, is that what it is? Yeah, this would probably be, there'll probably be a global for this or something. So it'd be something like G ent system. Yeah, I don't know if we'll keep the system thing, to be honest. Maybe it's just gent. Yeah, so then you would say dot archetype pools index with archetype, get the property bit set, and voila. So I can tell if the property exists for that archetype, and then you do the same thing again. You'll be getting a probably here you pass in the archetype. Enum. And I think we'll get the pool header here. That'll be the address. Wait a minute. That wouldn't do it. You'd have to say dot header. Something like that. This would say, hey there, GI troll, how's it going? I do not speak German if that is German. I can just say the basics. Archetype, and then it'll be like header, I think. So with that, we should be able to extract out the offset, which would get you, yep. Alright, so now that that is cleaned up, I think I want to get rid of this entity iterator pool range. It's just another concept that doesn't have to exist. So I think what we could say is or maybe it's internal to the iterator. But yeah, so we don't need essentially all we need is a entity ref but with a count on it. So maybe we could just make it a U64 maybe. Yeah, so, you know, maybe it could maybe be called an entity range, an ent range instead, and that makes it far shorter. So that would obviously include the archetype, and then a start and then a count. So that would mean, wait a minute, ent range yeah, so you get the archetype out. You can then get the reference out. Shoot. Range, I guess I'll just call it. Wait, why does it say archetype? It should say range as well. Yeah. So we'll have to fit in that at some point, but that might be a U64 because you won't be able to fit in a U32, I think. So instead you'll have these, I guess, these entity ranges. These be the ranges, and then you'll have your sort of like, so you iterate over all the, yeah, we'll call it a range index maybe. Right. You might have more than the archetype count. Because if we go to, like, imagine if you've got different regions and you've got entities in each region. When you have like a radius that you're going to search for all the entities in, it will hit all of these different regions. So you need to look at all the archetypes within each of those regions. So realistically, you actually can have a lot more. So yeah, maybe we should just, maybe these iterators should just be dynamically allocated and stored somewhere. We should probably have a maximum number of ranges. And then I guess, because if you have something that's a very big radius, then you could presumably have a lot of entities, right? Oh, what should I do then? Maybe I should heap allocate it. So if you try and, so the problem is the failing case then. You see, I wonder maybe we can make it so we only need as many as archetype count. So you're going over all of the, you're going over all the regions, and you go over every archetype within a region that matches, and you would then go over all the ranges within that archetype, I guess. Wait, you're going over all the ranges within the archetype, isn't it? Right, okay. So, see, it would be better if you stayed in the pool and iterated over all the regions for the same archetype, I think. So that would need a, what would you need for that? You would need, so currently we just iterate over all those ranges. Perhaps you should just go over all archetype, iter next archetype, then go over all the ranges within the archetype. But then the ranges, like, my issue with this is that you could ask for a very big area. Well, maybe maybe you just get the access line bounding box and you're doing a... Yeah, I think that's... You won't need arrays of things. So I think if you have a collision shape and you're saying, right, I've got a circle, and what you do is you get the bounding box of the circle, and then these are all the cells the regions you have to iterate over, right? So the way the logic would work is you would do a you would iterate over all the regions and do a box verse circle check, and then yeah, something like this. I wonder. And then if the test returns true, then you iterate inside that region for that archetype. Whereas if you have like a cone, you get the bounding box of the cone, and you do the same thing, right? You go over all the regions that the bounding box is in. You just do sort of a min-max. And you know it's within these two regions. Oh, I messed that one up, didn't I? So I think we can do that. So the iterator then shouldn't have to have an array of things. Instead, it will just get back a range. But you've got to have like the min-max bounds of the... You got to have the min-max bounds, and then you got to have the intersection function with the region. So I think you'd have to store like a Boolean. So there'd be a shape verse intersection function or whatever. So you do the lovely one of these. Shape verse region function. So your shape would be like... Yeah, but where would you store the data? I guess you just have it... Or you just do a switch statement, then your function pointers. Yeah, maybe we'll have the sort of like yeah, so you have your region start and end, I guess. So this would be like the lower left and the top right. Something like this. You can then iterate over the region. And then you'll go over all the different archetypes. So archetype ent archetype. Oh. And then you would get back a range, I think. Or maybe we'll just return the range. So maybe you instantiate, you need the shape you're testing. So if you have it might be like a circle or something else. Maybe you do a switch statement. Ent iteration shape. I could call it like, yeah, it's a shape. Well, I don't know. So one might be, for instance, maybe you use so they could just be, or maybe it's just always ellipsoids, right? We like ellipsoids. Maybe ellipsoids could be good enough, but you might want to have kind of ones which are wider at the. That'd be more like a cone, wouldn't it? Yeah. So I guess we start off with like an ellipsoid at least. So you have this like shape thing. Like this. And then I guess that's a shape type. So shape type. Oh. So that would then be a. And then the shape data could just exist maybe in a union. Strut and iter shape. Then ent iter shape. Yeah, I think we'll just do a tags union here. I usually don't use these that much, but I think in this case it makes more sense. So we'll do like a ent iter shape type, and then we'll union the rest of it with like, you know, a strut in there. And this will be the ellipsoid case, which would then, so I think all of them, yeah. So we'll have like a, see, would it be a float? Yeah, maybe do U32 for a sort of a start. Yeah, maybe I have like a coordinate, a shared. Nah. So this would be the center position, or the center coordinate. Then we'll probably have a float which represents this sort of like radius maybe. Yeah, I'll figure that one out. Then, yeah. So then when we have this iterator, over entities, we can take that shape. And yeah, so just need the region start, region end, the collision shape, and then probably we need another XY to represent like the actual which, you know, we go across and then up and then step over all the regions and do the test against the collision shape. Something like that. So this would be the region index that we're searching through. Right, so that should work. Yes, that would be for a given radius, so I think that would be an ellipsoid 1, so it's a times 3. So that will produce your iterator. Then you can go over the next archetype. So it returns the archetype. Iter next archetype. Then it's iter next range. And that will give you an ent range out. Right, I think this is much cleaner now. So, hang on a minute. Let's do a scalar. Right. So now let's change how this iterator looks. So we'll definitely have, we'll have the ent archetype. So first go over all the archetype pools, and then we go over all of the ranges. So let's copy that one. This would be archetype now. Next archetype. Then we instantiate, or we declare, an ent range. Right, this is a range of entities within the archetype. And we'll keep going around. So no longer, this is interesting. Yeah, so the start index and end index is all we need. Well, the start and the, yes, this iter pool thing can just be deleted. Iter pool, yep. So it uses that new ent range thing. So we've got ent range, we can get the archetype out if we wanted. We can get out the entity ref, or the start index and the count. So if we get out the start index and the count, see, we're kind of exclusively doing start index plus count. So maybe we should get a way to get an end index out as well, and that will save us, you know, doing that stuff all the time. So maybe we get out the end index as well, or instead. So these two things that grab from the entity the arrays of coordinates or weapons, these we get from the archetype now. Yep. So we go over all we declare that we're going to be iterating over a bunch of entities with coordinates. Wait, I didn't put the weapons in there. That have coordinates and weapons, but no inventory. We'll go over all the archetypes first, and then within the archetype pool, we're going to step over all the ranges that are within the area that are within this radius from this position and this radius here, right? So we go over all of the ranges, get the ranges, iterate, right? If there's any optional things, we can handle those as well. We can also store back in the arrays. And then we can also get an entity reference back and defer delete entities within the same for loop. Pretty sweet. So I think that's a much cleaner API now. Yeah, it should be more efficient as well. And we don't have to store arrays inside our iterator anymore. Since every time we go to the next archetype, we'll go to the next, every time we go to the next range or next archetype, we'll basically be changing these sort of region indices and shape. So going to the next archetype, we'll reset this region index back to start. And then going to the next range, we'll sort of start testing against all the regions and advancing the region index. Yep. And testing the region against the shape and seeing if it passes. Sweet. So I think that's a good iterator API. We should be able to change it out for SIMD in the future since it's just arrays. So it's archetype, let's put that back. Neat. Right, so what is next on the to-do list? So I want to do an iterator over all the archetype entities as well. We have kind of already done that though in this API design here. Right, we're going over all of the archetypes, next archetype type of thing. So, like, I'm not going to have more than 16. So why don't I just extend this API? Why don't I just take in a mask? Yeah, I don't think I'm going to have more than 16 archetypes or something like this. So if I put in a mask, maybe it does add more parameters though, but maybe that's okay. But if we take in an archetype mask, then it means that we could essentially yeah, I don't think we need more than a U16. So these are the ones that are accepted. We could declare, yes, you would just so we'll pass it in. You'll say, oh, so you do like a U16, or maybe you call it like an archetype mask, and that's the ones that you, maybe we make it up, right? I haven't really done it here yet, but we definitely want to define an enum, which is the ent archetype. So the archetype will be like, oh shoot, that really be capitals on it. So that will probably be, you know, sort of knight thing. Probably like knight. Then it was chest and tree. Very terrible examples. Mind you, we won't be doing it this specific. So you got this like archetype thing. And we should probably make another type then, which allows you to treat it as like a mask, or at least be able to type def U16 as ent archetype mask, or maybe flags. Right. So you can say define ent archetype all, I guess. We want to be able to say like all archetypes. Yeah, probably just do all, and that'll just be something like all bits on. Then you can just have a flag which allows you to type in the name, and we'll probably just do a one shift left ent archetype and concatenate whatever you've put on. So then that makes this type of API with the iterator. So here we'll put in the ent archetype flags. So which ones do you actually want to search through, like allow? So we can archetype filter, I guess you can call it. So if I call it a filter, it's obvious, right? 0 or 1. So 0 means off, 1 means on. Right, so presumably you want to keep it, right? If it's 1. That's what I would think at least. Maybe I should call it or search filter. Yeah, let's call it filter. Right. So you have this sort of like filter in here. I think this would be pretty cool. So we should be able to yes, when we instantiate it now on the next line, we should be able to say ent archetype flags all. So this will say when we're iterating over all of the entities within an area, we're going to allow iterating over all archetypes, but we could, if we wanted to, explicitly define just the 1 or 2, or we could remove some of them as well. Yeah. So yeah. So I think this iterator API now just does both of them based on the way it works. So we don't need to worry about making that other API anymore. Up here we said iterate over archetype entities within an area. We don't need to worry about that anymore. So I would probably need a very bad API that iterates over all of every entity within every, like, the whole world. Probably just for saving stuff out for debugging. But yeah, I think we'll take a pause on the iteration stuff for now because I think we got that one in a good place and we did it the whole of the last stream. So this stream we could do something else. Yeah, so maybe we want to say like iterate over every entity for debugging, right, only. Doesn't have to be fast. You know, can be slow. Right, so this needs to move as well. So maybe I can start structuring some of this stuff a bit. Because it is getting a bit... No, it should be fun. So variable size field at the end. What? No, so you have to put it at the end. That sucks. Well, there's ways around that. We'll deal with that problem when we actually do the codegenning. Okay, so what's the next sort of API we need to be concerned about with this entity system? So we've done the ID to reference stuff, I think. Just tick that one off. So quick recap on that one. Oh no, we haven't. But yeah, I've thought about it in the past though, so we can just quickly knock one up. So basically we've got ent ID, an entity reference that is valid for the whole lifetime of the entity, but has the extra cost of indirection over entref. Effectively, an NID is already effectively an entid is always dereferenced into an entref. So my thing is before use. So the way I imagine doing it is this is probably just one of those core define IDs. So it's just like an object pool, and I think we could basically define so the object pool that we already have in the code base, we'll just define some kind of like entity record or something. Just got to think this through a little bit more. So the record is probably going to hold see, it needs to be at least 2 pointers big, because we store the linked list in it when it's free, when it's a pool. But then it will have holes in it, which is my issue. Yeah, no, this is fine. So we could so we could store the ent ref in there, but that's only half a pointer. So this be the reference to be able to go and get that out. But that probably has all the... Yeah, maybe we won't use the entity... Yeah, maybe we won't use the pooling system that we have built into the engine already. Maybe it'd be a very specialized one for this, so we can get around that problem of it having to be 2 pointers, the size of 2 pointers. So the thing is, when you create an entity, you just allocate a record for it, and then you allocate a slot for it inside the pool. So if you have a player that either moves around, so if you have a player which moves from one area to another, or if you have an entity that gets deleted within a region, it's going to cause holes in the archetype pool, and then we run the defrag system on top. Or maybe while we delete, we just swap removing things. So we need a way to be able to go back from the archetype pool to a record. So I think each of our archetype pools will need to have another array of U16 star record indices. Right, and we need like an is allocated bit as well, I think. We're missing that one, like an is allocated bit set, we're missing that one. So each element within the pool can point back to the record. So when things get swapped around, we can go to the records and then update the references to basically point to the new place, right? Yeah, or if an entity moves between one region to another, we can update it to say it's in the new pool, right? That'd be pretty sweet. Yeah, so I think that's all we need to do. So this record thing should probably go, hang on a minute. Yeah, so in here, this would be the archetype, ent record. So we'll probably have, yeah, we've got to like pool allocate these things somehow, or have a way to mark it as being free. We might have some free or a free slots array or something. Yeah, we can call it an entity pool, but then there's too many things called pool. Maybe a record pool, but an ent record pool, very specialized pool for maybe that's the way we do it. Damn union. Yeah, so maybe we say ent record pool, and it's just a pool of records. So we just store, these are the records. You probably have like, hey, how many of you allocate, or how many of you bump allocate, what's the capacity of the records, and then so you keep bumping it, and then when you free one, you add it to the free list. So typically you do a linked list, because that is, if you do a linked list, yeah, we can just do a linked list, I guess. So we'll just point to the free. There needs to be a doubly linked list, so you need to be able to point back. Is that right? No, it needs to be a doubly linked list if you're going to be allocating a specific ID back. But we might not be doing that. So we should just be able to get away with a singly linked list. So just be a free list head index, and that'll point to a record that's free, and then that record will point to the next one that's free. So this record, yeah, this ref would just be a next free index instead, basically. So I think we'll just do a custom pool system like that. It'll be quite easy to do. So I'll probably have that outside the code generator, because it'll be quite universal. So in the entity system global variable, maybe I'll just call this ent sys, I don't know. It will just call it ent. The problem is that it just loses the, you can mistake it for a single entity. So you have this entity pool, record pool, this is the record pool. So whenever we want to translate an ID into we need the counter bits as well. Generation counter. Yep. So whenever we take an entity ID, we index into the records. We check the counter to make sure that it is the same allocation, right? When we deallocate the slot, we increment the counter. If it differs, it's a use after free. And then if that all passes successfully, we return the entity reference. And that's how we deref an ID into a reference. So quite simple, straightforward approach there. So let's tick that one off. So that one's done. So the next type of API, or the thing that we might want to try and do, is like typed IDs. So at the moment we've just been doing untyped IDs. Like, how is it? So I think it's definitely a useful thing, but I don't think we should change much. So this should obviously be more strictly typed, right? Type defs suck a lot of the time. Most of the time you just want to wrap stuff in structures and make it more strictly typed. But I think we should also add specific archetype IDs and references. So by doing that, what does it get you? Well, so you get these sort of entity ref to sort of get in. Oh no, you don't do those anymore. They're terrible. Oh no. No, you can have these. Yeah, you need those. This is for random access. I should put a comment for this. So the comment should go on the code generator as well. So, you know, this is property access functions designed for random access. When the iterator API will not, see, I forget you spell this word, suffice. I just spell it. Suffice. There we go. English. Will not suffice. There we go. Right, because the iterator API is what the API is all designed around. Being most efficient. But you're not going to be able to speed up random access really. So yeah, that's what these are designed for. We'll have ones for so I'm thinking, right, if you have, like, the way these work is they're gonna get the archetype out, go to the archetype pool, then check the property bit set, work out the offset with the population count of the bit set, and get the pointer to the array, then index in the array, get the property out. Because it's just structure of arrays, right? So yeah, I'll go into the header of the pool, get the population count, after this header, add, if you get the weapon, add 3. Get the weapon ID array, index, and get the weapon ID out. So if it's a typed ID, this means that it doesn't get you any benefits. Or does it? It will. It will get you lookup benefits because you can know the exact pool and do the perfect code gen. Yeah, it will. And it means that, yeah, you get the perfect. That's interesting. That'd be awesome. Yeah, so we'd have to code generate more stuff. Let's do that. That'd be amazing. So property access function times random access not suffice. This is slower. This is slightly more work than the typed entity references. Then we can say this is slightly quicker. These are slightly quicker than the typeless or untyped. References. There we go. So, as an example, this would be ent night coordinate get. It'd be a night ref, wouldn't it, actually? No. Yeah, so it'd actually be a... So it'd be like a night reference. And this would mean that you can know the exact pool and array. So the logic should just literally be accessing a global variable, working out some offset to that base pointer, and you'll be able to land directly on your... So archetype pool, you'll be able to go into your night, right? And you'll be able to go and say get coordinate array or weapon ID array, dereference one of those pointers, and then do the offset. So that should all be quicker. There wouldn't be a bit set to look in, at least. That'd be pretty cool. So we also need, we'll need typed IDs. Should write that in. Hey Dan, Wizzy. You fooled me, sir. How dare thee? Yeah. All good. So that'd be pretty sweet. So let's wrap this in a strut since we're going to be doing it anyway. I just did it for quickness. So strictly typed is the weight. So it's the raw reference, which has the archetype in there and the entity index. So we also want another one for, so I think we'll define a bunch of these core IDs. So that will resolve like an ent night ID, right? And so on. So we have typed versions. See, I need to put this in places where we can, but yeah, we'll do something like, let's just do examples, right? So there'll be a night ref, night ref, and the ent ref would be the raw version there. So that would then mean we can always turn it from a typed one into an untyped one, or typeless one. So this would be, so we have typed references or IDs and references and reference types. Yeah, because I think those will be useful and they provide a bit of a benefit as well, but we have to code generate some more functions, but that's okay. Right, so we've got that jotted down. Happy about that. What is next on the list? So yeah, we're definitely doing typed IDs. Good thing. I like them. Swizzling, we're doing swizzling. we've thought about that. We'll need to add a swizzle thing to the generator though, and we've removed optional, so we'll have to do that. But yeah, we've thought about swizzling. We're going to do that. Right. I think there's only 2 more APIs left, and then we can get down to the code generator, I think. We'll have to think about it though when we complete it. So let's do entity creation next, maybe, or yeah. So, or maybe we do the terrible iterator. Iterate over every entity for debugging only. Yeah, let's finish that off since we've just done all the IDs and things. So I think right, we already have a list of every single entity in a way, but it's not like the problem is it is not linear. There's going to be holes since it's in a pool, but it doesn't have to be fast. So we could just go over all of them, check if it's free. If it's free, skip it. Then yeah, then if it's not free, you get the reference, check the pool, and then you've got the next entity, and that would then mean you can do whatever you want, like serialize it out to disk or something, because I want to do a very slow and terrible save system for the whole world. And I think for debugging purposes, but is there a faster approach that we could do? Right, we have this region thing, so we could just go over every region, right? And then hopefully that has at least some entities in. Well, if we're going to be iterating, well, we already have the iterator API, right? So if we're going to, why don't we just, yeah, there's already an API to do this. You just go over every single region, and the iterator is not limited on a number of regions, right? Because we've designed around that now. So all we have to do, so putting specific regions in was a dumb idea as well. It's now just a region start and end. So basically, yeah, we should just be able to use this API. We'll make an easier one, which is a macro. It all gets easier with macros, right? So this means we can define the properties at the end. It puts into a local variable, and then it just puts in there automatically. Archetype filter. So we should be able to say iterate area, and that'll just be a box. So we could say, so there's an archetype filter. We could do like a min-max region space, or yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe we'll do like a min-max. And then if you do a min-max, you'd have to somehow get that into regions. So I think min-max, max. We'll make a new API, do a min-max. So that's just a box, and that will call the regions one underneath. Min coordinate, max coordinate. Yeah, I think that'd be ideal. So that would be a way that we could iterate over the whole world and then save it out with that iterator API. So that should be pretty sweet. So we don't need to actually make new API now. So we've thought about like 3 iterator APIs. We just combined it all into one that does everything. So that's cool. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Maybe there's So I guess because it does quite a lot, but it's the main way we're going to iterate over entities for speedy reasons. So this is like the fast API to iterate over entities. We probably want to already have a version which we can just copy and paste, which is empty or mostly empty, ready just to be copied and pasted in and add more code to it. And maybe we could make versions of this. Nah, I was thinking about making some functions which have less parameters, but yeah, I think this is fine. But yeah, we should definitely just provide some examples that can be copied and pasted, and that'll be a way to use the API. But yeah, so effectively the skinned down version would just probably be taking that out and then just letting future me just copy and paste. Yeah, letting future me copy and paste this and then just go ham. Cool. So the next API design to do is creating entities. Now there probably is going to be more, but this could be one of the last ones. Hey Alex, you've been busy, so I've not been able to see your side entities. Yeah, man. Yeah, I got a so I did a YouTube video that I released on Saturday, going over the top level BVHs, finishing that one off, and then I did. Oh, yeah. So it's BVH instances. So that's there if you want to catch up on that. But then I've got another one in the works. Well, in the works, it's already chopped up. I just need to literally like render it and then put it up on YouTube. But we went over this big old document called the Game Tech Plan for the next 8 months, which is basically build a model editor and a very basic level editor. But I obviously do a bunch of other things like make an entity system, OS threading support, job system, and things. So I've got this, which is, yeah, this one's already cut up. So that's ready to go out on Saturday. And then there's another video, which has to also be chopped up. What is that one? Oh yeah, the entity system. Got to figure out when my video expires on yeah, I need to probably edit that very soon. So I'm halfway through editing that one, and that is going over the entity system, comparing different approaches, and the one that we're going to be kind of settling on. So that one should come out the Saturday afterwards. But yeah, that's what we're working on. And right now we're working on a code generator. So I'm just designing the API for how I want it to be. And then we're just going to code gen everything from a basic text file. So I've got this entity layout file which defines all the properties and then all the archetypes and all their properties that they use. And then we can simply code generate maybe 1,000 lines, maybe more than 1,000 lines. Hopefully not too many thousands of lines. But just generate some body of code which is optimized for iteration around a place in 3D. So we can say, hey, within this area, iterate over all the entities. with these properties or something. And then, yeah, so it should be good. We've just been designing the API, which has been a bit, yeah, been a bit like hectic, but I think it's getting there. Just been thinking it through really how it would be implemented, make sure it's going to be good. Initially, I was thinking, can I do an AOS and an SOA version and just have it as a flag in the code generator? But it seems like doing SIMD is just better off. Yeah. Yeah, maybe I could do a different API that gets code generated and do a fallback version, just so I can test out the performance to see how good it actually is. I saw some of the start of one entity system stream, so I know a bit. Awesome. But my days are completely packed now that I'm starting Counter-Strike in uni. Good old Counter-Strike. Awesome. So, are you starting, this is your first year in uni? And do you know the course the subject should be doing? Yeah, I get it. Computer science. Yeah. Yeah. See, in the UK, we never shortened it to CS, probably because I don't know. It was definitely more of like an American thing, shortening it to CS. But every time I saw it on Twitter, I was like, Counter-Strike. What are people talking about Counter-Strike so much for? That's why I knew CS is. First courses start on 26th. Ooh. Okay. That's cool though. Get some education, get some certificates, and then get out there in the world and hopefully have a good time, have some fun. Do you get any sort of like placements or with your sort of uni? Because I know some unis guarantee sort of like placements at companies and things. Those can always be useful sometimes. Also, a second question: do you get a chance to pick a certain subject that you learn about in your uni? Because sometimes they allow you to pick certain modules, if you will, isn't it? Sometimes. Right, the creation API. Gotta have a bit of creation in the engine, right? So to create an entity, how might we go about that? Very good question. So we know we have these knights, we know we have these chests, we know we have these trees, these archetypes. Very terrible examples, but they definitely, yeah, but they exist, right? So the easiest thing to do would just be to have a structure called chest, right, or knight, right? You fill this boy in, right, on the stack, right, which I really hate this idea, but there's no way to put it. So one way is you fill in all the bells and whistles, and then you go ent create knight, and then you throw the knight in, and then you get yourself back an ent ID, right? For the knight. Or you get yourself back a knight ID, which can turn into an ent ID. It's just typed. Wait a minute. Hang on a minute. Hang on a minute. I need to be careful about this. Ent on ent knight ref ent ref night ent night ID ent ID. Yeah, I've got to remember to make these ones, right? The resolvers. And then also right, so rather than ref, it'd be ID. Alright. Ent night ID. So you can easily just turn the typed ID into an untyped one by just getting the raw member. Right. Nice. So this is one way we could design the creation API. Right, we have to define another structure, but we have to define another structure, but it's got the benefit of just being like a C structure. And then you just populate as normal, and then you send it up. And then it just splats it across the structure of arrays, right? The other way is having a bit of a more involved API, or I guess you say start creating the night, you call different functions to populate the individual fields, and then you end it. I think that's the other way of doing it. So the benefit of that one is you reduce copies. You allocate the space, you populate the fields that you want, and then so basically this could be, so this is solution 1. Then a solution 2. Why doesn't this automatically do the slashes? Like, come on. Solution 2. Does Helix have that option? Helix auto comment new line. Like, yeah, continue comments, man. Alright, it's open. Yeah, it's like the most obvious thing to do. Surely the person using it. I want to get it in. Anyway, cries in Helix. So this would then mean, yeah, so the other one would be something like ent create night. Now, something else that'd be proper cool about it is that this would just be zeroed by default. Bum, 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 bum. And maybe everything is just zeroed. But you probably also want to pass in some form of coordinate, actually, because that can't be zeroed, because it has to go in a pool somewhere, because it's all coordinate based. So you have to pass in a place where it has to go. And maybe there's like a null area or something like that exists outside of the world, which things can exist. That's something to think about in the future, I think. So then you could maybe, I guess, decode it to a ref of some kind, and ref night, which would kind of suck. You should really expect the reference back. Yeah. And then you would basically say ent night ref. Yeah, this is a bit inconsistent as well. Night ref and then ref night, but stuff to think about. So you pass in the ref and you'll be able to like set a coordinate, right? And this one will be very optimized because you know the type. It will just go to the array and index it, and then you'll be able to set your value. See, getters and setters. Do we need getters and setters like this though? Yeah, we do for random access, but And since their properties are typically quite small anyway. But yeah, you not set coord, but more like set, I don't know, like a weapon ID, something different. So you set them manually by calling the functions. We can also provide both APIs. This is not exclusive to this. There's actually two ways to do it. Right. So for the first question, I'm not sure. It's pretty well known uni in Sweden, so there's quite a lot of corporate connections, but I don't know if there's a guarantee for positions. As for the second question, it's a 5-year education, so the first 3 years are pretty much set, and then the master program is more specialized. Fair play. Yeah, I got a few people from work from Sweden, really, and someone I speak to quite regularly says that the Swedish education system is quite good. He really liked his time at uni, and it's free, and technically it's like you get paid for it as well, isn't it? They pay you like not massive amounts of money, but they pay you money to go to uni. So seems pretty cool setup. Yeah, I wish there was more like that over here. Yeah, sounds like you get good education and it's not stealing your money. It seems like such a great idea, right? Invest in the people in your country. You know, create better people. You know, get 4,700 SEK per month plus cheap loans. Right. Yeah, so you can loan on top of that if you wanted to. If you didn't want to get a side job and just focus on your studies or not be less stressed, right? You could, yeah, you could bet against future you to pay that money back. But yeah, that's cool. I wish things were like that way here. Like, yeah, I went to a local uni and it was just so bad. Local college that was in connection with a local uni, and they're both terrible. Yeah. So yeah, great thing about this API, you fill in the whole structure and that's what you get put in here. But this also has a bunch of user error because they might have not zeroed it or initialized everything or whatever. And then you'll copy in every single field, right? But with this API, we could say every field is zero initialized, or furthermore, we could have default values. Not that that's going to be, I don't think that's really going to be useful, but we have a code generator, so if we wanted to, we could make it such that these have default values, right? Right, it'd be really weird, but we could do it. Literally just string copy it into the code. It's possible. Default values, so when you move stuff around and make it empty slots or whatever, or create a new night, it just puts them in there and or zeros it or whatever it is, right? But if it's just zero, yes, you might say that actually the health component is always manually initialized, so don't initialize it or something like that. With like a bit of, but then I guess that could be quite error prone, so just zeroing it is just safer. But if you zero it, you got the added benefit of like when you're defragging a pool, right? I guess this is where I want to be. Oh, should we go and come back here? Yes, when you're defragging a pool, this is a night coordinate. This is a region, that's another region, that's another region. A region is a place on a map. Right, this is a region, it's got a bunch of entities in it. So within an archetype, a knight archetype, all the knights within that region. This is why doing knights is a terrible idea, because you're not going to have tons of knights in just one region. Probably make it a bit more generalized. But anyway, you're going to have so many knights in a particular region, and say if you've removed 3 knights in a single frame from the knight. Yeah, you could probably mark that some of these are dirty. You mark them as dirty. Yeah, so say if over a few frames you remove, say 5 knights, right? You mark the slot, you remove the stuff from the end. So there might be some like, let's do some lines or something to represent it. Say if you remove this one, you'll take the one from the end and move it there, and then update the entity record to make sure that the reference points to the right place. And you basically keep moving stuff over like that. This will be marked as dirty, right? So say if you have like 20 of them and you remove stuff that's like obviously towards the beginning, you'll move the stuff from the end to the empty, to those slots that have been deleted, mark the ones from the end as dirty. Then when you try and allocate new ones, right, you've got a bunch of dirty elements at the end. Use bulk 0 the dirty slots, so that would be optimized for bulk zeroing rather than just zero one element from each different array. Because it's SOA, you would usually like, say you've got this knight, you go, okay, 0 element 55 for coordinate 0 element 55 for health and 55 for mesh ID, and you do each one of those. But instead now, you only do the zeroing once. After a bunch of deletions, you will try and bump allocate on the pool, and if the element is you try and bump allocate. If there's dirty bits, you have like a dirty counter. If your dirty counter is more than 1, use bulk 0 all of it, and then bump allocate it. So you'd still be zeroing each one of these arrays, but you would do many of them. So the next time you bump allocate it might not have to 0. And that should be pretty cool. But a lot of the time you will probably get like, you'll kind of 0 one element maybe. If you like have an entity that leaves and then comes back, leaves then comes back, leaves then comes back, right? Yeah. So maybe the bulk zeroing isn't really going to be an added benefit. So we could probably just add like, I don't think it's really going to be an added benefit. It doesn't seem like it would happen too often. Yeah, I guess this API would be the easiest. This API is the most fiddly. Solution 2. We should also have a way to get the ref, like an actual just pointer to it. I want an API for that. So rather than just get sets, well, you need to get set for a coordinate, because that one probably needs like, when this value has changed, you need to move it around the pools. It's a very special value. But for weapons and stuff, is it useful to know if something has changed? It might be. Yeah, we'll think about that in the future. So maybe we'll just keep it as getters and setters actually. But yeah, so I think we'll go with this API. It seems like the easiest thing to do. So we'll make a night strut, and you'll be able to create it locally. I kind of hate putting stuff on the stack and then copying it afterwards. I really dislike it. But it seems like the easiest API to work with. So we'll do that for now. And I guess you'll be able to read the whole night back as a strut. Is that a good idea? Is it a good idea to read back the whole strut? Yeah, we should make a convenience way to do that. We're doing a code generator because we might want to do like serialization or something. And yeah. So other APIs that we want is so define the struts void ent night create. So I wonder if we should do create night, you know. Yeah, we'll do that. That'd be great. Hey, glorious sir, how you doing? Good to see you. How's your day going so far? So you'll have an ent night strut. You pass it in and initialize and get back an ent ID. One ent night ID be typed. Then you'd also want a way to get night back. That'd be with a night ref. These things. Night get though. I don't know which way around to do it, but it has to be consistent. So I'll get you back a by value. Yeah, things are going good, glorious sir. I've rethought the iterator API a little bit. I can give you a quick recap. So you'll be happy to know I've managed to pack entref down into 32 bits, right? It's all about that packing. So remember we had that sort of like pool offset and like archetype and then an entity index. So we would have needed 64 bits for that. And I was thinking the pool offset and archetype are basically the same information. I need a way to just consolidate that somehow into one thing. And the archetype is more, it's more useful than a pool offset. The archetype is an information, whereas the pool offset is just a base, it's an offset from a number, it's just a number. Decided on final design of my ASCII system, sweet. Played some games, nice. Watched some corporate Gamescom crap, okay. I did not realize that was going on. Sweet. Yeah, the final, as in before I sit down and actually implement it. Yeah, but it's cool. It's great. What's the special things about your asset system? Because I remember you wanted to make it as simple as like a mem copy or something, wasn't it? Yeah, my day's been alright. I had a task to get in. Well, no, I sort of, I was hoping to get my task in today, but didn't actually manage to go in because I had to set up some other thing. So it sucks. But hopefully tomorrow I can get my task in. But people are happy with the task, the review. So happy about that. But yeah, these things happen. But yeah, things are going good. My boy had his shots yesterday, so I had to hold him down while he was getting injections and stuff. Which was quite sad, but yeah. So, but he's all right. He's pretty good. He forgave me right away. He was I was running around with him and he calmed right down within like seconds. But he had 4 of them in his legs. But yeah, they're done now. But yeah, so just been playing with the boy, having fun. But yeah, things are great though. So yeah, back to the iterator thing. I just decided to go the union approach. So every pool is unioned. Then we have archetype pool. Then in the entity system, we just have an array of these unions. You index it with the archetype enum, and then you know which one it is. Right, so there will be some necessary padding. But that's okay. I'm okay with that padding, I think. So now and then I've also changed the API around a bit, where there's a few functions to call. So you initialize the iterator. You go over all the archetypes. So this solves the problem of I don't need a separate archetype entity iterator anymore. It's all built into one. Then we go over all the different ranges or all the different regions that it goes over within the archetype pool. And then we go over all the entities within that region. And we keep going around the regions. And then we go back to the archetype, go over all the regions again. So, yeah. I've written the iterator in such a way where we don't need to keep too much state. We just need to keep the min-max bounds of regions. And we iterate over 2 dimensions of regions. And then there's sort of a collision shape where every single time we say next range, it will test the collision shape against the next region. If it passes, we use that range. If not, we go to the next region and test again and repeat until we find a region, or no region. Then we end with we return a 0. So that's what I settled on. Should be good, hopefully. Yeah, store the assets into one file and load the header with all the asset offsets. Oh yeah, its sizes plus meta information, so it's baked into the executable. Oh yeah. Wait a minute. Sizes and meta information, right? So it's baked into the executable. Wait, do you bake? Is the metadata in the executable, or is the all the assets in the executable? Sounds fine. You're not doing property index remapping now, right? Yes and no. So what am I doing? Yeah, so when you land on the archetype, you still will have to do this magic, right, with the whole population count, right, bit count thing to work out the offset when you want to grab the whole array. But yeah, still doing you do that once per archetype iteration. So that's just done here. But yeah, something that we've managed to do is add typed references. So what's interesting about the typed references is we can avoid that bit set sort of population count thing, and just basically say we want to get a coordinate for an entity reference, it will literally be going over the global variable, wherever the hell that is anymore, going into the archetype pools, indexing with archetype night, pulling out the night pool, dot night, going to coordinate, and then so that's just one dereference after a bunch of so one offset and a dereference, and then we get the pointer, and then we offset that, and then we dereference. So it's 2 dereferences to get the thing we want. So that's better than it was before, because it would involve calculating the offset a little bit with this sort of magic. The offset to the property pointer. But this shouldn't be that bad. Assets are not baked, only data that describes the assets. Right, okay, metadata, cool. Have you seen, do you know the guy who made the quite okay image format? So I saw him on Twitter the other day posting about his so yeah, I'm not sure if you've seen this. It's basically a very simple image format, which is in like 500 lines of C that compresses RGB and RGBA textures, and it's quite quick at the decoding and encoding as well. And it's got 4 different compression methods. It's pretty sweet. Like this, so he has even like a simple yeah, so there's 4 different compression methods, like, you know, the repeating pixel one and a difference one and an indexed color one and then some luma one. So I guess and then he's got like a cheat sheet where it fits on a single, like, wait a minute, it fits on like a single like PDF thing, which is quite cool, page on a PDF, and you can, I guess, write your own encoder from this. And it's got a conversion program as well, all in here. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So there's this, right? But he's also made more things since then, because this kind of blew up. He made quite okay audio format for lossless audio. I know nothing about audio. It's one of the things I want to do in the future. But again, very similar thing, right? 400 lines of C probably. Let me have a gander. Right, 800 lines, but audio is probably a bit more complicated. But yeah. And then he's done another one called Quite Okay Package Format. So I was looking at this one last night, and the thing that I took home from this, which is quite interesting, because, you know, obviously it's very simple, these things. So this is like tar, and if you guys have watched me before, you'd know that I like the micro tar library by RxI. Very simple as well, 500 lines. But this is a custom one, where it's kind of like tar. It's got its own conversion program, which basically, if you look at the, allows you to like package this archive file. But because it's just a custom archiving file. But the thing that he does, which is interesting, is his header, right? Let me say again, his header is actually a footer. And I think, does he call it a header? Yeah, he calls it a header still, but it's actually a footer. So it goes at the end of the file, right? Kept Payne, thank you so much for the sub. I appreciate you, sir. I'll be with you just one moment, my friend. Very much appreciate the support you've given me so far. 10 months, thank you. So if you see when it opens it, this is the trick. It goes to the end of the file, reads the header, which is actually a footer, and then it gets all the information. Now, how is this useful? Well, when I was reading through his example, what does he do? Well, in the example, he uses the executable path as the archive, meaning he's just catted it. So, a bit of cat, not dog, catting the asset on the end of the binary, and then reads the end of the binary, which is actually the archive file, and then can get the assets out of the thing there. So it's quite an interesting trick. I know there's that trick in the Love 2D where they do something with the linker, and they do a very similar thing, but this does it without the linker trick. Yeah, so it's quite handy. It's quite cool. But yeah, I would recommend following this guy. Yeah, Phobo's lab. He does some nice little libraries. He's on Twitter. Yeah. Yeah, it's good to roll out compression. Right, let's go for the chat. Hey, FM Calistro, welcome to stream. No, not to compress pointers, no. I switched mostly my hobby stuff to quite okay image because the code size. Yeah, it seems pretty cool, and also like decoding as well. It's just quicker, like decoding PNG is just slow. And the encoding of PNG as well is even slower, obviously. Someone mentioned the other day on your Discord, I also want to say I do admire the persistence of your project and everything, man. It's really awesome. Thank you, Cat Payne. Appreciate it. I appreciate the persistence of some of you guys as well, showing up most of the time. Mostly every time I stream. It's very cool to see you guys. Very interesting with it like that. Yeah. You should follow him on Twitter as well. He does some good. He releases some stuff kind of regularly, actually. But this is the stuff to be inspired around, right? Making little utilities like this that challenge complex solutions and showing people that there is a way to program something very simple and elegant for your own needs, and putting it as a header file or a library that someone can use or take it and make it their own, right? Because people are like, when they see you write a bunch of code, they're like, oh, you should make this a library. But then obviously it comes with tons of problems. But if you just release something that's dead simple and then that can be extended, then that library person can just go and use it as a library. But then hopefully they can evolve to being someone who's more takes it and makes their own changes for their own project, right? That's what's quite inspiring about making little things like that, I think. I should make my own little things like this. It would be cool. You still could cut pointers to U32 using relative pointers because it's super easy. Relative pointers? Why do I want relative pointers? Where do I want them? Yeah, I've already kind of got relative pointers in a way, and that's my int ref. But it's relative from a base address, right? Or many different base addresses. But I'm not sure where I'd need the... Yeah, I'd need it. Right, so I wanted to go to this creation API. Solution 1. Right, night create. Yeah, I might call that night ref. Yeah, so you pass in pointers to that, you can get the whole thing back out like that. Be pretty sweet. Then if you want to destroy an entity, it's always deferred, like so. That's good. So we've got create. We've got get and set. We've got destroy. We should revisit destroy in a minute and try and think about the plan for that. Maybe we'll just have a queue. We've got getting the whole thing back as a structure, which makes it easy to do like serialization or something. And then we've got iterators to iterate over all entities with certain properties, iterating over all archetype entities, and stuff within a radius or a particular region. Yeah, so delete solution 2. Yeah, so to just do that. What else do we need in an entity system, really? It might be good to know, like, if something changed. But I guess I'll add it when I need it. What else really do we need? Entity create is done. Swizzling. Okay. It's already done. Let's think about the deletion thing. So when we defer delete, we are probably not going to delete many per frame. So I think we'll have a queue. Now, could there be a moment where you just mass delete everything? Like, somehow. Say if you mass delete... Yeah, so I guess we'll just silently fail if you fill up the queue. So we'll have like a mass deletion, a maximum number of deletion. And we'll silently fail, maybe. No, but then if you silently fail, yeah, it's really bad, isn't it? Because you might expect it to be deleted, and it'll just stay around, and you won't necessarily delete it again the next frame. But yeah, we'll have a max number, and hopefully there's not more than that goes on. Otherwise, your other step is to put it in per pool. Then if you do it per pool, wait, entity record. So maybe you put it as part of the pool system and then you link list it. It will be slower, but you'd have to link list over them anyway. You'd have to, what's the way of saying it? You'd have to access all that memory anyway. So a link list of free of like delete queue head index, and you just link list the whole thing. So you just pop it on, push it on there, then pop it off. So maybe you could do like a U16 counter and a U16 next delete index or something. Yeah, and then you link list over all the records, get the references, free it, free the record, put it on the free list, carry on. That ought to do it. Yeah, and then you won't have the maximum number anymore. Cool, that's the way of doing it. Hey there, Lupo, how you doing? Welcome, welcome. Doing good, my friend. I think we're finishing up on the API design today. I think we're basically there. We should be able to get started on the Codegen. Actually generating code. By relative pointer, I mean this. Stores a U32 offset from the U32 address. So you actually... Right. Yeah, you store a relative pointer, sure. Yep. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'll need those. I don't know where I will need those though. I'm not sure what part of my API is going to benefit from them because yeah, usually from the base addresses rather than from one to another. I have an idea. Say you're declaring a var from the documentation maintaining purpose. Sorry, say you're declaring a var for documentation maintaining purposes. Do you want it to be as verbose as possible, right? Now, what if you declare an alias as well? You can do it with a pointer alias, but that's messy. Right. You could do it with a pointer. It'll get compiled out. But yeah, you could probably have a pointer. It should get compiled out. But yeah, then you do a bunch of deref syntax and arrow syntax everywhere. So yeah, it might be a bit fiddly and more messy, yeah. If it's a simple pod type, you could just copy it to an alias, operate on it, then copy it back. Right in the pool struts. Oh, you mean these guys? Right, so what you're saying is have like a base allocation pointer, and then the rest of these would be like relative from that base pointer. Is that what you're saying? So you have like a relative coordinate. So yeah, you would save... Yeah, you would save like some memory, I guess. But yeah, you'd have to read... Yeah, rather than just reading a pointer... Yeah, you'd have to read a pointer, then the offset, and then add it together to generate that. Or maybe, yeah. Or maybe what you're saying is, right. I see, right. Is you could just have one old... Ah, TJ, how's it going? Thank you so much for the raid, sir. Appreciate it. How did the stream go? Trying to find my tab. welcome readers. How you doing? How's it going? We're currently working on a game with that engine. We're taking a break from rendering technology and working on a data-oriented entity system, as you do. So this is our rendering we've got at the moment. It's ray traced BVH thing. Bunch of ellipsoids. So yeah, we're just trying to make entities now so we can have different models and instances through the logic on the game side rather than just rendering code. It was good. We're playing with some Odin stuff. Cool. Yeah, I think I saw your chat with the creator. It was a good chat. I really enjoyed that video. Got some good thoughts. Yeah. What are you you just having a bit of a play around with Odin, or have you got like a project in mind that you want to potentially use it for in the future? Because yeah, it's quite a good a good systems language, I would say. I would prefer it over Rust these days. I remember when I was a Rust fanboy a while ago. Yeah, those days. But yeah. Agree, another genius to make fun for you. Okay. Well, I can come across as a genius and also incredibly dumb. So you can have both moments. I think I come across really dumb a lot of the time. Hey, cell phone. Played with it for some prep with the Talk with Ginger build, but make a simple game of it. Nice. Oh, I keep losing the chat. Not really commit to anything, but just having some fun. Cool. Awesome. So I didn't get Bill's no language server thing. Yeah. Sometimes a simple solution is a good one. But yeah. Like sometimes a simple list of strings is more useful in languages like C and C++ is for sure. Because if you if-def some stuff out, the language server is going to try and be too smart and provide you less information sometimes. And sometimes the strings will just suffice. But yeah, it's pros and cons really, the LSP. Pros and cons. What do you think of the Tractor project? I've never heard of Tractor project. What is Tractor project? You don't have blue hair. Okay. Fair play. Right, yeah, so we've done some custom rendering stuff with compute shaders. You know, we're currently working on this game tech plan, which is basically build an editor. That's the overall goal for the next 8 months. But we're working on building an entity system, which is data oriented, kind of ECS-like, but without the S part. And we're building a code generator, because we have to build compilers on these streams all the time. So we've got a simple declaration of properties, simple declaration of archetypes, and we're code generating hopefully a fast entity system which is optimized around looking up at the entities around you. So everything's split into regions, and the regions have pools, and the pools there's archetypes and things, and so hopefully it will pay off. And we should be able to change if we want to change the data structure of an entity, we can just edit this file and the code generator will take care of the rest. Can I post a URL? Sure. Sure you can. So yeah, any questions about the project, feel free to ask away, guys. Yeah, so we've basically just been sketching out the API design. I think we've basically finished. What was on? Oh, yeah, it's talking about the delete queue. So I just made a delete linked list so it doesn't have a theoretical maximum anymore. Which is slower, but we're going to be accessing that memory anyway. So the linked list is going to be okay, since it's going to be accessed in random orders anyway. So, right, that's the deletion sorted out. Ah, Silent Echo. Thank you so much for the sub. Appreciate it. Appreciate the sub there. Translating all C to Rust. Wow. After 2 decades of grappling with memory safe issues in C and C++. Okay, it's reached a consensus, right? Okay. Right. Okay, that's cool. But like, yeah, consensus. So like, TLDR, memory safety is not a language problem. It could, you know, the kernel could probably deal with it better than a language. So rather than hindering ourselves with restrictions in programming languages, which make writing code slower, we could probably have the operating system handle it for us. And that would be better than rewriting the whole of the world. So, yeah, that would be much better. And also, isn't it much better to live on the edge of unsafety? You know, always when you're a child, when your parents say, wear that black helmet, you go, no, I don't wear my black helmet. So, same for programming. So yeah, unsafe is the way. Oh, Kira's listening, yeah. uh, takes a long time to unlearn mutable global state. Right. Right, I see. Yeah, and then you have subdivide your objects as well. Lovely. Because you've got 2 mutable references. So I think we should probably get started on the code generator. I think this has all basically been designed. I cannot think of anything else. So this is just me sketching out a bunch of API. All right, so I think what we should do is split stuff into... We should start writing the core things, get all that code written out, and then... Oh, sorry. Right, so we move all this stuff into the core files that doesn't need to be code gen. Then, yeah, so in the source logic entity, we can go into the sort of like the entity public header and internal header, move all the stuff in there that is independent of code gen. So entity.h, I want to take in, for instance, so property is going to be code gen, archetypes code gen, right? Property flag, not exist, and mask. This stuff is all public. entity reference and archetype flags, that is public as well. You never code gen any of this. And we'll order it around as well and fill it all in. An entity ID, that is also something I would say which is not code gen. So entity ID is valid for the whole lifetime of an entity, has an extra cost of indirection, but it always resolves down into an entity ref. An entity reference points directly to an archetype and an index within the archetype arrays, right, the structure of arrays. But it can become invalid between frames because there's a defragmentation process that goes on every time you delete an object. Yes. So properties are all code gen, so we'll leave that in the code gen file, ready for me to copy paste into some strings and go full ham. These are the typed reference IDs. The record is an internal thing that's not code gen. And the pool header is internal as well. So entity internal, drop that in there, come back. Night pool, chest pool, these are all different archetype examples, but they are terrible examples, they're too distinct. Yes, the archetype pool again will be code gen. The entity record pool is not code gen. This stores the lookup table to get your entity ID into an entity reference. So that will go into the internal side of things, which we will make an API around that. So custom pool, I've got a pool, an object pool already, but it just doesn't do, I need something a little bit more specific for this thing and it'll just be better. So the next thing is the entity system. This could not be code gen, but I'm going to code gen it probably, because this is a code gen item, that's a code gen item. So I'd have to include this after, put this after the include, which could work, but then I might have some more code generated fields in here maybe, or maybe not. You know what? Let's do it, right? Let's do it. Let's put in here, but this is where the include will go. It's a bit funny, right? But we'll go include entity generated or internal generated.h, right? And then this will be defined in here. So next thing is what's next? So we've got this API to get an entref and turn it into and if a property exists or not. Wait, what's property exist do? We got that one. That's gonna see a lot of these. So I think even if the contents is going to be code generated, the headers should try and go in the non-generated headers as much as possible, potentially. Yeah, probably true. Right, catch you later, Alex. Good to see you, man. Have a good evening. Have a good rest of your week. I may see you Thursday or something. Have a good one. Is there a reason why you're using typedef in this way? Yes, because this is C and not C++. In C, you have to type def, like union and something means if you just did this, you would always have to prefix the type with union when you want to use it. So if I want to make a variable, it has to be union like that, right? But if I type def it, it means I can take away that. And that's all it does. So type def union this, which is the type, right? As that. Right, that's the way you read it. So same with struts as well. If you say strut tree pool, you have to say strut tree pool in the variable name. But then this is saying type def strut tree pool as tree pool. So I mean, why not that way? I just don't really like that way of doing it. And if I want to forward declare it, I could just copy this line and then paste it. I think doing it all in one go just seems a bit chaotically messy for me. Yeah, you can remove the strut name as well if you do it that way too. Yes. It just looks weird and feels weird. I just think it's much more neater if it's done this way. If you will. Just a preference thing. So these can go in the public header. We'll organize it in a bit. These are generated, an entity range. That is probably well, it's internal, but it's got to be made public because I want to give this by value. But if I give this by, so I could give it by pointer. So you could sort of like maybe just have it like thread local. But then it would just be weird. So I could have it like thread local, keep it internal. And then like not pass pointers in. So you could say like iter area with a radius. And then iterate next, right? I doubt you'd want to do multi-dimensional iteration. Maybe you might. I could have an entity iterator that's sort of like a pointer. Then if it's a pointer, everything could be hidden, right? And then I'm not exposing these types. Yeah, then I'm not exposing these types, but then the API would have to work differently. You'd have to allocate yourself an iterator rather than just allocating it on the stack. And then if you allocate it, you would then have to probably deallocate it. And then imagine if I have like a thread worker system, maybe within, or like a job system or something. You would probably want to keep the iterator in around somewhere so you don't keep allocating and deallocating it. So you'd probably need to store that pointer somewhere else. Whereas if you just had it on the stack, yeah, so public. In the public header it's going. This is the way. So we'll probably make an iterator section. Yeah, we'll get to that. We're just dumping it in the places where it needs to go. Bear in mind, it does have a archetype in there, which is going to be Codegen. So we're probably going to have to include this after. So yeah, put it after the include for the Codegen. So we'll probably want to do something like this. Include entity generated.h. Cool. Right, so this is, oh wait a minute, these are not codegen either. Well, the header parts aren't. So these are how you initialize the API. Oh yeah, then the iterate functions to go to the next archetype and next range. Asking an archetype if a property exists. There's a ref property exists, and that gets the archetype out of the reference. So right. So I guess this could be in the public somewhere. Stuff to do with archetypes or something. We can make that one, that's fine. Right, so that's just the implementation of that function. It'll be codegen. Wait, does it have to be codegen? It'll be archetype property bit set. Probably doesn't have to be codegen. That can probably go in the source file. Right, that's interesting. Yeah, so that wouldn't have to be codegen because we could just put it in the source file. Now just include. Right. So just archetype is codegen, but it doesn't matter because we'll make this. Right, okay. So this is definitely all codegen. It's a specific property called coordinate. Right, this was testing the creation API and the iterator API. We'll keep this around though, probably comment it out. So that's pretty decent. I'd like to comment all of this out so we can, we can go ahead and so comment all of that out so we can take it out and put it into strings in a bit. But if we run the script for entity generation, it still compiles and outputs the same file. Okay. So something that we've decided to remove is the optional thing. So what was up with that special type? Yes, if it's a Boolean type. Oh, we didn't think about that. We should do that. Right, so this is optional to remove it. We're not doing optional fields built into this entity system. Optional is a thing you manually do on the property itself when you make a property. You either have a null value or you just have a null value, right? So we're removing the optional thing from the code generator. So silly. Yes, that would just be a back to there. That there. Nice. So the question mark will now be gone. So whenever I run the codegen now, it's saying valid. Yeah, then got question mark. Sweet. So we go back to that layout file. All these question marks we can get rid of. So there's a special type called the sweet, so that still works. there's a special type known as the a Boolean. And for a Boolean, why did I want it to be special? Because I wanted it to, if it was a Boolean, I wanted it to go into the optional bits, wasn't it? Or something like this. Yeah, but we don't have optional bits anymore. So instead, I think we'll make it a bit set. So by making it a Boolean, we'll be making a bit set array instead. Rather than an array of Boolean, right? That's what will make that special. And then there'll be another special type for a vector, I think. So that special is called special data type. I think we'll do another one and we'll call it vector because we'll be able to do the swizzling thing. So I want to add support for swizzling. So swizzling will mean, so I define this and I say like swizzle. So if you do this sort of like hash, then swizzle after your coordinate, we could check the type, ensure it's a vector, and then swizzle the components. But I don't really need to do SIMD yet. But I should maybe think about doing it. Have a think. So if I did vector, so if we pass up that swizzle thing, we can then swizzle the XYZ. Based on the SIMD size. And then, yeah, so when we, so this is the main, just loops over the whole file if it's got a property. Then when it gets to the end of the property, there is possibly a, right, semicolon. But you say if compared char, if compared char is actually a hash, then we can then go and grab the next string, which is the same as this API. Something like this, right? So we'll read, we'll get the string. So there's sort of so you do that until the space, semicolon, tab, new lines or something like that. And if there's nothing, expected a directive found incomplete directive. And then we just say new line, hint, hash, so prop identifier hash swizzle. Yeah. As a hint. So that will be a nice hint. Then verify, no verify. So if swizzle. Then we mark the property as a swizzler. Is swizzle. So this would then mark prop is swizzled true. Now I do think that it is zeroed, right? Yeah, zeroed the whole thing. Cool. So mark has been swizzled. Then we've also got to say we don't want to silently fail, right? If you pass in some random crap. So we're instead going to say found or unrecognized directive hash string. Bear in mind, I did forget to put those damn things here. Hang on a minute. Back up. Have to do a few little new lines here. No worries. Right. So I think copy that. So here we're saying the data type, then we put in the string for the .s because it's a sized string. Put in the size and the string pointer. So we get a nice error where it just repeats the line that they tried to type and what we could do. So we kind of want this also here. And we would like oh yeah, the previous string that we had in there. Unrecognized blah. Blah. So that would need a string dot size string dot data casted to an int. Good old ints. Yeah, it's all right. So now we'll mark it as being swizzled. Now, the data type has to be a vector. But and we have to know what vector it is as well. But let's just test it out and see if that works quick. P, there's no P. My life has been ruined. Alright, it needs to be prop. P identifier. Cool. P. Yes, prop identifier. Nice. So that should still run. No, a segfault. Why do I get segfault in this? So this is the only new code I've added. Right, so we open that up in trusty GF. And we got a error. All right. What is wrong in here, eh? So what does string look like? Looks valid to me. Prop. Data type string. Wait, am I doing it right? Yes, this. Bugger. I meant to put a size string in there. See, that would have been cool if I did the printf attributes in Clang. It supports this. It's pretty nice. 1 to 2. No. Oh, okay. So that should catch the error now at compile time? Yeah, so catch the compile time. No, it doesn't. It doesn't allow it. I don't know what's going on there, to be honest. I tried to enable that in my code base, but I've got too many places to do it in. So I've just basically skipped it for now. So I guess I'll skip it here too, and we'll just solve the problem. Yeah, it's meant to be a dot star. Right, there we go. So it's saying unrecognized directive swizzle. And you could do it as swizzle, right? But that is strange. Why? Oh, data type string, that's why. Copy paste errors. Cool. So that prints it out, but it doesn't print it out with the swizzle on there, so we should correct that code as well, because it'd be good for debugging in the future. So we should also add support for an optional string that goes after, and we'll go, well, so we have the directive. So char star directive, and then you say like prop is swizzled. If it's swizzled, we'll do a space hash swizzle, else we'll just print out nothing. So directive. So now that should, in the debug print out the swizzle in there. Bam. Cool. So now in the code generator, we also need to recognize. Well, okay, let's try the other thing, right? There's the other errors. And the other errors are like, ones if you don't call it swizzle, yeah, prints out saying unrecognized directive this, hint, something like that. Nice. That works out well. So yeah, the other one was like if you did nothing. Found incomplete this. Yep. Nice. So those errors are looking good. There is another error that we did miss. This can only be done on a vector type. We need to know. Oh shoot. We need to know the number of vector elements, which is going to be useful for the code generating of swizzled properties. That optional goes. Right, so be a E32 for like number of components. Vector components count. Maybe. It's a bit long. Bit of a long name. But yeah, we'll just be using it in a for loop probably. I don't know. We'll see. So we basically just want to parse. We want to parse the vector. And when we parse it, we need to really have the element type as well. So like maybe That'd be the full one. Maybe you can say the element data type string, and it can slice it up. And then, so you're saying if it is swizzled, it will use the element data type instead. And then it will, yeah, I wonder. So if swizzled, you're going to look over the string, extract out the number of components, extract out the where's swizzle at? So if you found swizzle, you got to do 3 things. So check if 5 characters is exactly 5 characters, right? Because it's like, aka something like U32 times 4, right? Then you need to check if the first character is U, S, or F. Then check if second and third character are, wait a minute, 8, I forgot about this one, U8s. No, my life is ruined. That's cool. Is 4 or 5 characters. Are 8, 16, 32, or 64. And then finally, check if third or fourth character is an X. And the final check is check if the last character is 1, 2, 3, or 4. And that will mean that it is a vector type. So we could do that complicated way of a rule-based thing, or we just have a lookup table and we go over all the strings and just, yeah, the lookup table approach is going to be less fiddly. So that one means I think we do the lookup table approach, and that will get us the element type string, or maybe I guess it's the vector type. Yeah, see, that's the thing, isn't it? The element type string can be in another array somewhere, and so can the number of components. So it'd be like vector data. So maybe we'll have like a vector type, just be known as vector type. So you could probably do, so you would do something like vector type U8. So it's all the U8 ones. There's no times 1, actually. We don't need to do anything too crazy, I think. You could probably work out the number of components based on the enum. I don't think that'd be too hard. So yeah, this rule thing is kind of a dumb idea. Instead, we shall simply just repeat something like this. So 16 32, 64, and then you just repeat these clusters of these things twice over. Go down, make a signed int one, then go down and make, oh for crying out loud, a float one. We don't have float 8s though. That's another one. Float 8s don't exist. Right. So we have like a vector type count as well, just for the iteration purposes. So I think that ought to be good enough. We'll stick this globally somewhere where it's just a code generator. Doesn't have to be the most perfect code. Oh, for crying out loud. There's a way to select a previous, like... Nice. Yeah, so it's vector type, we're gonna have to type def it. A. Yeah, so inside the, put it in the wrong place, and probably put it here. So rather than having this components count thing, we'll just have a vector type. And then that's so it's only for swizzling, right? We need that. And then the element type string can go away. So really, if we want, no. If we want an element type string, we could just slice this guy up by taking off the last two characters. I don't know how many places we'll need to do that. It's possible. And we can go from we can have a function which is like vector comp count vector type, and it's basically just a bit of division. So you would say type divide by 3 plus 1, I think. So, you know, if you got 0, what would be plus 2 maybe? I don't know. So 0 divided by 3 plus 2, yep. Divide by 3 gives you 1 plus 2, that'd be 3, good. Divide by... this would be 2 divided by... wait, hang on a minute. Wait, excuse me. I think we need to plus... we're trying to work out the number of components. It's remainder, isn't it? It's rem. It might be rem instead. So 0 rem 3. That'd be 0 obviously plus 2 be 2, good. This would be a value of 1. Rem 3 would be 1 plus 2, 3, yep. 3 rem 3, which would be, sorry, 2 remainder 3. That'd be 2 plus 2 would be 4, yes. This would be value 3. That should get you a remainder of 0. Then plus 2, and that would be 2. Perfect. So that's the logic. That'll get the component count. Thoughts on Windows Subsystem for Linux? I haven't really used it much, to be honest. I think it's cool that people on Windows can have a try of Linux and stuff, but it's not going to be the same as actually like downloading a distro and using it. You know, it's virtualized. You're not really going to get the same performance as you are on a PC. Like on a PC, if you use Linux, the performance knocks Windows out the park, really. Things just boot up well, the computer doesn't slow down over time. You know, you don't get the software support that you do on Windows. We get tons of, every software works on Linux. But if you're just a programmer, it's pretty decent experience in my opinion. Yeah, to be honest, I don't really see too much of a point for it. I guess it helps people who primarily develop on Windows that want to port to Linux, and I guess it's not a. Do they do GUI yet? I don't know. Right, so we need a bunch of strings. Let's go. I used to have a macro in Vim for this, but I don't have a macro anymore. I need to find a way to get faster at this editor, but we'll get there. Just do a bunch of these multi-line cursor thingies. It's alright. Yeah, what I want to do is go back to the beginning. Right, that'll do. Right, so there's our lookup table implemented. So it's just a case of running over that, finding it, then a string compare, So when you got swizzle, just run over it like a champ. Index 0 vector type count, and you do your lovely sort of like if core string equal lit prop data type string with this thing, this vector type. If that is true, we've gone and found ourselves a vector type. So what I would like to do is then initialize the vector type to being vector type count, which is invalid. And then we can go ahead and set prop vector type count to index. And then break from here, right? So then we could check and say if prop vector type is equal to that vector type count, well, that is obviously a type mismatch and is not a compatible Swizzler type. So here you're going to say data type is not a data type blah, right, is not a vector, so cannot be swizzled with hash swizzle. Let me delete all this because there's no hints available. So you'll put in the data type string and voila. So should we test that out? Vector 3 is not a swizzle. What? What are you thinking about? Unit 3 not. It's right there, isn't it? Oh, I did lit, that's why. Damn it. If it was a string letter, I meant to do C string. That thing. Oh, for crying out loud. Yeah, I guess, right, we'll just do the standard string comparison. And we'll wrap this in a core string C. Cool, so apparently that passed the test with flying colors, but we also want to test when it doesn't pass the test with flying colors. That would then mean we just delete something like that. And then we catch it. U2 times 3 is not a vector, so it cannot be swizzle with swizzle. Neat. That's cool. Happy about that one. So, right, the code generator is in a quite good place. Oh, the code, you use X macros. Yeah, I guess so, because you can also extend it to do more things, I guess. Yeah, things I like to avoid X macros where possible. I do use them though. I use them for the Vulkan loader stuff. I put my Vulkan functions. Here we go. So I got my function list. And I just define like, oh, this is a library function, this one's an instance function, this one's a device function. And then it's just an X macro. So I have this in a bunch of places. I think where I like to use X macros is where the same list gets duplicated in a bunch of different places to do different things. And I don't really have that too much with enums. And then enum definitions become macro-y. But yeah, I just like in my GPU Vulkan structure, the global, I just got all the function pointers in that global. So I just, churn out all of these as a bunch of function pointers via the X macros. And then obviously do it in the Vulkan code base. When I build up the system, I read them all from the library, all the library ones, just the library ones. And then I'll do it again once the instance has been made. And then once the device has been created, I'll do it again one more time. So yeah, I do use X macros, but I find them a bit messy sometimes. I think I would only want to use them in very select places, I think. Not for like every enum I want to make, I think. That's my thoughts on it. But I do see the benefits though. You could kind of declare them all in one place, or just, yeah, code gen a whole bunch of this stuff as well. Right, so I think made some really good progress today. We designed the whole API and implemented some of it as well, just the skeleton of it or some specific parts that we needed to iron out. We got the code generator ready with swizzling support. So it will, it currently parses the file and just spits out the same file again. But this is all as data so we can code gen. So we've already spent 4 streams making entities. I planned out 6 streams. We're kind of running pretty tight basically. Hopefully next stream we should be able to literally just generate everything that we want to generate, but things probably won't be compiling because there's probably I have to make my own entity record pool code. I have to make some other things as well, so it might be a case of we'll be starting some of that next stream, and then the stream afterwards be doing the finishing touches of that. But I also wanted to test out the API, and so we're probably going to run out of time. So we're probably going to overflow by one stream, which kind of sucks because there is a schedule, and that schedule means if I follow it, I'll be done in 8 months. So, but it's cool. It's cool. So we'll probably be delayed by one stream on finishing that. But good progress regardless. I'm happy with how the entity system has turned out. It's definitely going to have to be edited more when we want to use it, and add more things to it. But I think it's a good first stab at it. Opens the door for SIMD as well. Thank you, Alex. Appreciate it. But yeah, thank you for everyone who's supporting me over on Twitch and Ko-Fi. I really appreciate it, guys. If you guys are, subscribed here or over on Ko-Fi, you get access to the code if you join the Discord and follow the links. And we also have a YouTube channel where I post short versions of the streams, like basically summarizing things we've done. There's also a VOD channel. That's all recorded there. If you look at some stuff we've done in the past, it's all available up on there. Yeah, thank you. Have a good rest of your evening too. Yeah, I'm gonna probably just chill out before bed. I might try and exercise, I don't know. And go to bed, just crash hard. But yeah, next be on Thursday, guys. 7:30 PM GMT +1 or Sunday. You can check Twitch for a timeline. Yeah. See if there's someone I can raid. Yeah, thank you for coming, guys. Really cool to have you here. Good stream. Good stream. I saw a bit of CPP on my screen for a sec, and then Twitch just went bananas. Maybe I didn't see PP, maybe it was the C-sharps. I have no idea what's going on. Let's try and be a good citizen and find someone to raid. If anyone's got any ideas, let me know. Oh, there's a Jai guy. Let's raid a Jai guy. Alright. Have a good Wednesday, guys. Hopefully see you Thursday. If not, have a good weekend, and I'll see you all on Sunday. Thank you for coming, and much love. Bye-bye. Go, go, go.